Good morning, everyone. We will call the Committee on Appointments to order at 8 a.m. All right, you all, we only have a few things on our agenda this morning. We'll start with our first resolution confirming Mayor LeGrand's appointment of Justice Young to the Community Relations Commission.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Comments on this appointment, colleagues?
Could we just share a little bit, just a reminder that, sorry, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
May I be
Commissioner?
recognized? Let me follow the protocol. As a reminder for our Community Relations Commission, they do their sort of a bit of a pre-review, if you will, and then send those names to the mayor, correct?
Yes, yeah, they send a list of their recommendations and then secondary recommendations just to sort of narrow down the
Okay.
the mayor's list.
And can you remind us again, of course, the Community Relations Commission isn't solely on ward, but is this individual, can you remind me again, do they reside in the city? And,
Yes, they do. Third ward, I believe.
all right, great, thank you.
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, seeing no further comment, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. That will move us to our second resolution confirming Mayor LeGrand's appointment of Rick Armbruster to the Mobile GR Commission.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Comments on this appointment, colleagues? Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we talked a little bit about Mobile GR last time and kind of the ward makeup. Can we review that again as we look at that one?
Yes, good point to see what the makeup is looking like currently.
Yes, with this applicant, this applicant is outside the city, but
Okay.
Clerk, if you scroll down to the demographics, then we'll see.
There we are.
Okay.
Still pretty heavy Ward 2. We have another appointment planned for the next meeting that should be of Ward 1.
Okay, great.
And when we look at the demographics as well, good note, Commissioner. It looks like we are heavy in Ward 2, and we have a lot of Caucasian males on this board. And of course, we want diversity of all kind, experience, background, area. So that the good note, and I will continue to work with the mayor to make sure we diversify that board in many ways. But happy that folks are stepping up to serve. It's been a topic of conversation in community more recently. Folks have seen that board, but happy that folks are willing to serve.
Great.
Any
Thank you.
further comments, colleagues?
Thank you, Mr.
Okay,
Chair.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to our third resolution here, confirming Mayor LeGrand's appointment of Michael Ziemer to the West Side Corridor Improvement Authority.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Comments on this appointment, colleagues?
I believe this is our last one that we will need to fill out the CIA. Is that correct?
Yep.
All right, awesome, Commissioner.
Yeah, I just had
Serving
the
on there now?
opportunity last week to be on the first meeting there, so that was great.
Wonderful. Uptown meets at 8 a.m. I don't know if you all meet. Uptown is
No,
early.
we did noon.
I'm jealous. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. And lastly, if Ms. Bosker, if you could guide us through a discussion on our current board and commission vacancy list.
Sure, I'll start by adding that there will not be any vacancies on today's agenda. There's talk of a couple that are upcoming, so I'll keep you informed on those to hopefully not have them vacant for too long. Next week, we're planning to fill a couple of the urban agriculture openings. The last Economic Development Corporation and Brownfield Redevelopment Authority spot, the Historic Preservation, and the LOCC, so we're still moving through quite a bit at the next meeting.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ms. Bosker. Commissioner?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we just approved the one for the mayor for the cab, which is what we talked about last meeting, that both he and Commissioner Purdue had an opening for cab. Is that correct? Has Commissioner Purdue shared any thoughts about her appointment on that body?
Not yet.
Okay.
I do know that she has been looking, and she's put out some calls to her network and other people and extending that. So I think it's in progress, but it is a board that means a lot and needs to have a lot of credibility and legitimacy, and we want it to also be thoughtfully done. But her position, her appointment's been open for quite some time, so. And just for the record, I do still have an opening that I'm filling. Mr. Molesky is still serving in the interim, so we're covered, but still have an
We'll be
appointment.
thinking of those. Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Any further questions, comments?
I
Yes.
have a programming note.
Okay.
So just a programming note for those that are watching online. We have a slight change in times of starting of other subcommittees, so be cognizant of that. Fiscal is going to start in 10 minutes at 8:15. Community Development is going to start at 8:45, and Committee of the Whole is going to start at 9:15.
Early.
Thank you so much, Mr. Clerk. All right, and without further ado, we shall close the Committee on Appointments at 8:05 a.m. Have a good morning.
Thank you.
right, good morning, everybody. It is 8:15. We'll go ahead and get our fiscal committee meeting here underway. Pretty short agenda, so hopefully we can move through these items at a reasonable pace here. So item number one, we've got a resolution to authorize participation agreements with the Michigan Cooperative Liquid Assets Security Systems, also known as CLASS.
So moved.
And I'll support. I'll turn it over to Mr. Glowinski.
Good morning, Commissioners. I think the 70-some-page document attached tells it all. No, just kidding. It's
long.
rather in-depth. This is a great opportunity for us. Michigan CLASS has been a long-standing approved local government investment pool from the state of Michigan, and we're now going to utilize that opportunity to place some of our liquid cash. The nice thing about that is our current U.S. bank account is about a 3.5% rate of return. This one's 3.8, and it's also ready money for us. So as long as we send the information or file online by 3 o'clock any given day, we can have money drawn back into our accounts as we need it. So it provides us with not only the safety and security of following Public Act 20 and our investment guidelines, but it also gives us the opportunity to have a real easy way to go get that money.
Great, thank you. Commissioner, any questions? Nothing? I've got nothing either. So I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye, so the motion will carry. That brings us to item number two, which is a resolution approving a deficit elimination plan for the Michigan Indigent Defense Commission Fund.
So moved.
And I'll support. Good morning, welcome.
Good morning. I am Tricia Chapman with the Fiscal Services Department, for those that don't know me. This is a resolution approving a deficit elimination plan for the Michigan Indigent Defense Commission Fund. This fund is a little bit unique in that when there is a need, we are mandated to fill that need, whether or not we're at, what point we're at with the grant. The state of Michigan has us take any overspending that happens because of that excess need and roll it into the next year's grant, which is what we did and what is part of the plan. So this needs to be approved by the commission and filed with the state of Michigan.
Awesome, thanks. Questions, comments? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye. The motion will carry. Thank you. Bring us to item number three. We've got our bid list resolution for this week, February 10th, 2026.
Oh, so moved.
And support, I'll turn to our CFO.
Good morning, Commissioners. We just have some routine items, including an aerial bucket truck, HVAC, heat pump replacement, things of that nature. So if you have any questions, myself or the departments are here to answer them.
Yes, thanks. I wrote down that was on page 63 in the agenda packet too. If people have questions on anything specific, but seeing no other questions, I'll go ahead and call it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. All right, that brings us to item number four. We've got a resolution approving Grand Rapids Community Media Center Public Education and Government, PEG grant reimbursement request, and that's in the amount of $207,623.98.
Okay. So,
Sorry, is there a motion?
So moved.
Support. Good.
this is a reimbursement that occurs a couple of times a year, and it's part of the PEG grants that we receive through franchise fees. Because it's February, I thought we would take an opportunity here for Ted Dietrich from the Community Media Center just to give it a little overview of what it is that they do as a partner, and then we'll be available to answer any questions.
That'd be great. Thanks. Morning.
Good morning. Yeah, I'm
See you.
Ted Dietrich. Thank you, Doug. And we're always happy to come and tell you about a little bit about what we're doing. Good to see a couple of you times a year at our station, but thank you again. So since you've already kind of got a detailed report of the actual investment with you, I'm just going to talk about what GRTV does. At our core, so GRTV is 2 public access television stations. We operate GRTV, which is the true public access station where anyone can turn any programming in. And we also operate Livewire, which is an education and community affairs channel. A lot of government and nonprofit videos and productions end up airing. Residents can watch GRTV on cable access, so if they have Comcast, it shows up on channel 24 and 25 on any basic cable package that you would get. But we also have an app, GRTV Access. You can access that on Roku, Fire TV, and on Android devices, or through our website. We're always streaming on our website as well there. We have a few core services that we provide. So I guess I'll just talk about the programming there. So in last year, we had 1,400 new community programs that aired on our channel. So those are all programs that were made here locally or requested to air here locally. So when you tune into GRTV, everything you see is reflecting the Grand Rapids community. That was made from 165 different producers and resulted in over 950 hours of local programming. We have classes that we teach as part of our education workforce development. So those educational offerings are in video production, podcasting, and audio production. We have a media preservation training that we added this last year where people can learn how to digitize their old VHSs, mini DV tapes, kind of archive their old stuff. We have youth workshops, school-based programs, and our Media Maker Summer Camp that we do. And then in 2025, we had 64 certification classes that we were able to teach. In those particular subjects, that was for 202 people that we taught in those areas. Our summer camp, we had 38 high school students come in. Part of that camp is that we actually pay them to come in so that if they would normally have to work a summer job, they don't no longer have to make that choice between working a job or kind of learning these creative and productive skills to move forward. And then in our workshops and kind of bringing students in for a variety of skill working, we had over 400 students do that. When it comes to community equipment and facilities access, we have a lot of, once people have taken our classes, if they're a member, they get access to a whole suite of equipment for free. So we have studios, edit suites, lots of checkout equipment, cameras, light kits, microphones, just about anything, podcast kits, anything that you might need. So last year we had a huge boost, about a 50% increase in our edit suite reservations. I think with the tariffs coming in, there's been some expense, a lot of the equipment to do editing has been really expensive for people, and so they've appreciated using our edit suites for those reasons. 213 studio reservations, also an increase over 2024, and 170 camera checkouts for people checking out our equipment over the weekends or during the week to make their productions. We also do a lot of nonprofit and government support through our work. So we do video production services at a reduced cost for nonprofit organizations and for the government that hire us. We do web design through the Community Media Center to support nonprofits, as well as just covering city meetings and that sort of thing. So we had 127 government meetings that aired on our channels last year, able to share that work with the community. We had 34 nonprofit video productions we did for 19 different clients. We relaunched and rebuilt the Rapidian website, so it's much faster, much easier to access, and covers everything that's hyper-local on there. And that includes the work that our documenters are doing, so you'll see them showing up at community meetings, documenting what's happening and sharing those on the Rapidian, and covering over 100 public meetings last year. And we also manage nonprofit websites and develop those. So we managed 43 live nonprofit sites for 39 different clients in the area last year. So overall, kind of the value that we get out of the Community Media Center and this investment are just boosting local voices, providing that community access to these kinds of tools and equipment, providing media literacy education, transparency and civic participation, and then the responsible stewardship of this public investment that you're making in us. So thank you very much for your partnership. If there's any questions, let me know.
Great. Thanks so much. It's always good to hear an update from you all. I know I've enjoyed coming out the times that I've been able to take part in the interviews and do some live Q&A with residents. So it's just a cool way for us to be able to connect with them. So I don't have any specific questions. I don't know, Commissioner, if there's any thoughts or comments you've got.
Yes. Just to thank you all for the work you're doing. I think I have one coming in the summer.
Yes.
I'll be on with
in
you
June.
all, and really think it's important to support local journalism. I think there's been some very important conversations that the more bigger studios haven't, mainstream media hasn't covered that you all have. So I really appreciate your work.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Also, it's election year, so I'm sure we'll be filming some truth-filled election videos.
Yes, yeah, we have a number of videos planned through the Rapidian. We do also, we're looking at doing a debate for commissioner seats in October, I believe. But we'll be doing lots of voter education, voter guides. I'm sure you'll be hearing from us all.
That's right. But that's a good way to, we need to start pushing people towards that through our social medias too, of different ways of cutting through some information to these other sources.
Absolutely.
Yep, that's a great point. Thank you. All right. Well, thanks again. It's always good to see you. So, okay. So now we need to vote on our resolution. So I will call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'm also an aye. Excuse me. The motion carries. Brings us to our last two items. Number 5, we've got our comptroller's warrant report for the period of January 13th, 2026 through January 26th, 2026, and that's in the amount of $27,433,945.76. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Max France.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
So just one report here this morning, and for the warrant report, cash payments were released totaling approximately $27.4 million. And that amount includes approximately $6.8 million for our employee payroll expense and just over $339,000 for income tax warrants. In terms of quantity, 260 income tax refunds were issued and 1,171 checks and electronic payments were issued. These funds were issued for payment by individuals not in the City Comptroller's office and not in accordance with the terms of the city charter. The details of the payments are all contained on the tables in the following pages.
Great, thanks. We'll go ahead and receive and file that one. And then lastly, we've just got our treasurer's report for the period of January 14th, 2026 through January 27th, 2026.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Since our last meeting, we did have an announcement that Kevin Warsh has been nominated to be the new Fed chair. So we're waiting to see how that processes through and whether he is approved for that and becomes our new Fed chair. Really, when we look at the overall economy, the economic environment can be characterized as stable, but it's also very sensitive to any policy direction, inflation trends, or broader financial conditions. We're not expecting any rate changes at the present time. Most of the market participants are looking at possible rate changes coming later in the year if that happens. But again, the Fed is going to still be very data-driven. They have to see changes in the economy before they're going to start making moves. That is really where we sit right now, is kind of in a nice wait and see kind of position, which is nice. But again, any type of financial shock could lead to other activities. Right now, our portfolio sits at $722 million, and we're earning 3.3%.
Okay, great. Off the top of your head, if the new Fed chair does take that seat, do you know what the timing of that? Is it just dependent on when it's approved, or is there like a certain term?
I believe it's in May. May is when Chair Powell would no longer be the Fed chair.
Yep.
And I would imagine right immediately following, he would be then sworn in, appointed, and put in place.
Okay.
There's also some concerns whether or not the current Fed chair, Powell, stays around after that. But again, those are other decisions other people make, and it's not of a major concern.
Certainly. Yep. Just curious. Commissioner, any questions or comments? All righty. We'll go ahead and receive and file that, which will then conclude our scheduled business for this meeting, and we'll go ahead and adjourn at 8:28.
morning, everyone. The time is now 8:45, and as you all know, we have a little bit of adjusted schedule today to get through everything we have. So we're going to go ahead and start. First is a resolution awarding a contract with Groundhog Excavating and Landscaping LLC for water main in the Berkshire Drive, Giddings Avenue, and Shangri-La Drive in the amount of $2,067,364, with a total amount not to exceed of $2,648,455. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Ms. Irving?
Yeah, this project is being funded through the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund with funds that were obtained by the Water Department. So that'll be the primary support. It's also being supported by Vital Streets. There will be water main replacement. And with that, they also replace services to homes, though there are no lead service lines in this project. And they'll also do some ADA upgrades on the intersections at Kalamazoo where there's sidewalks.
Thank you. Colleagues, questions? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Item number 2 is a resolution awarding a contract with Nagel Construction Incorporated for roto-milling and resurfacing of streets at various locations. Contract number 2025-3 in the amount of $3,487,233.75 with a total amount not to exceed of $5,562,000.
So moved.
Support.
Ms. Irving, thank you.
This is one of our rotomill contracts in which we go into our local streets and we replace pavement, fix sidewalk squares, update ADA compliance. And this project by Nagel had a 14% micro-local business enterprise participation.
Thank you. Questions, colleagues? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3 is a resolution approving a construction agreement with Grant Action 2.0 for Grand Valley State University, the YMCA pedestrian bridge in Phase 1.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Ms. Irving?
Sure, this project is in support of the new soccer stadium that's going in and an agreement with Grand Action, the YMCA, and Grand Valley to connect the parking ramp to YMCA. So this is Phase 1 in which they need to move some street lighting and make some crosswalk and pedestrian upgrades. Moving the street lighting makes room for the future pedestrian bridge that will need fairly substantial foundations.
Great. Can you remind us, what's the anticipated completion date?
For the bridge, they're still hoping to have it done by the spring of 2027, so they're still pushing forward. I know they have their clearances and permits with the railroad.
Okay.
And this is a privately funded project, and then the city will enter into an encroachment agreement to allow it to span the right-of-way.
Great. Thank you so much. Questions, colleagues? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Our next resolution is approving a construction agreement and accepting a public utilities easement for North Ravines.
So moved.
Support.
Thank you.
This is a public utility easement on a private street in Kentwood for our water and sewer team to be able to maintain our utilities in the future.
Okay. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. And our last resolution for today is a resolution setting February 24th, 2026 as a date to consider a major amendment to a planned redevelopment district at 1150 Adams Avenue Southeast.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported, Mr. Kemp.
Good morning, Commissioners. The project in front of you this morning is the Boston Square PUD. It was approved back in August 25th of 2020. It's in a phased approach. The F2 building is currently under construction. The F3 building is in permits. The project before you this morning is to add 2 additional buildings to the already approved 3 townhome structures. Also, consideration is to increase the number of units from 20 to a range of 20 to 25. To relocate the central park area of the development to the northeast corner of the overall site, as well as eliminate the garages that were going to be attached to those structures. Parking would be accommodated within the street. The Planning Commission had some significant conversations about making sure that that street, when it was developed, or that drive, that it meet the intent of the Vital Streets plans. So So they will work, the development team will work with planning, engineering, and mobile GR to finalize, along with the fire department, to finalize the design of that drive.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Colleagues, question on this item? All right, hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The item carries. And with that, we are adjourned at 8:50, and we will see you back here at 9:15. A reminder, Committee of the Whole starts at 9:15 today. Thank you.
call this meeting committee of the whole to order with my microphone. First order of business is a proclamation on National Black History Month, and I'd ask Mr. Davis to come up with me as I read it to the community. So, whereas throughout our nation's history, African Americans have made profound and lasting contributions to the United States in every aspect of life, from arts and science to politics, business, education, and beyond. And whereas African Americans have been pivotal in shaping the cultural, social, and economic fabric of our nation, overcoming immense challenges and adversity to build a better future for all. Whereas in 1926, historian Carver Woodson established a celebration of Negro History Week, which later evolved into Black History Month in 1976, following President Gerald Ford's call to recognize the contribution of African Americans and the need to continue efforts for racial equality and justice. And whereas Black History Month is an opportunity for all Americans to reflect on the struggles, triumphs, and resilience of African Americans, honoring their impact on our nation's growth and progress. And whereas the theme for this year's celebration, African Americans and Labor, highlights the undeniable links between oppression under slavery and African Americans' pursuit of better labor laws and protection for workers across all industries. And whereas Black History Month serves as a reminder of the ongoing work towards justice, equality, and pursuit of freedom for all, and provides an opportunity for all people to learn, reflect, and celebrate the diverse contributions of African Americans to the story of America, we recognize the enduring legacy of African Americans in labor movements and reaffirm our commitment to advancing equitable economic outcomes for all Grand Rapidians. Now, I, David LeGrand, Mayor of the City of Grand Rapids, proclaim February 2026 as Black History Month, a time to honor the rich legacy, enduring strength, and transformative impact of African Americans in our nation's past, present, and future. Now, Mr. Davis, I think will say some words.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Commission, City Manager. We're so grateful for this proclamation that honors African American History Month here in the City of Grand Rapids. I will take a moment of personal privilege to say I'm proud to work in a city where we still honor the contributions of all people, especially those who serve in this great organization. I am proud to be a part of an organization that recognizes the contributions of African Americans and the great work that they've done to help build Grand Rapids along with other people in our community. We're joined today by members of the employee resource groups around the city of Grand Rapids, especially NFBPA, which is the National Forum for Black Public Administrators. We're also joined by the president, former city employee, who's a vice president at Experience GR, Jordan Eatman. Grateful that he's joining us today, and we're grateful for the work of all of our city employees across the organization. Thank you for what you do for the city of Grand Rapids. Thank you for what you do to embed equity into all across the entire organization, and thank you for what you do to serve the people of Grand Rapids. So thank you, City Commission and Mayor, for still standing up and honoring such an important thing in our community. Thank you so much. And at this time, we would invite all who would like to join us for a photograph. Commissioner, we'd invite you to come down, and we will make sure we commemorate Black History Month.
Occasions like this, I always have this strong inclination to want to sing at least one verse of Lift Every Voice and sing.
Let's do it.
Can we do it for real?
Let's do it.
Carry it off. Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, please stand for the singing of the Black National Anthem. Y'all ready? We're doing it for real? Yeah. Let's do it. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let us march on
Next up, and I think without any musical element, we will have a resolution authorizing a sister city agreement.
Well, I don't think they've decided yet. No, thank you. Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. Nice to be before you today. The resolution on your agenda is to approve a sister city partnership with Vaughan in Ontario, Canada. And this follows up on a presentation by Catherine Baker, President of Grand Rapids Sister Cities International, also known as GRSCI, on January 27th at your last meeting. Just a brief note, Sister Cities partnerships have...
Lou, my parliamentarian notes that we haven't had a motion yet, so
okay.
let's have a motion on the resolution.
Support.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Sister Cities partnerships have a generational impact on our community. The first was approved by the then City Commission almost 40 years ago, and we are confident this new partnership with Vaughan will endure and benefit both of our cities for many decades to come. We're very appreciative of the presence of 3 representatives from the City of Vaughan who made the 10-hour round-trip journey to be with us here today, and I'd ask them to raise their hands as I say each of their names and titles. So Michael Genova is Deputy City Manager for Strategic Initiatives. Ghazal Mardmomen is Senior Advisor for International Economic Relations, and Christian Zavarella is Economic Development Officer. So thank you for being here today. At this time, I'll turn the podium over to 2 representatives of our local Sister Cities partners at GRSCI for brief words on behalf of the organization. So they are Emily Smith, who is Secretary, come on up, and Molly Grimes, who is Vaughan Committee Co-Chair. And after that, Michael Genova will provide a brief presentation on behalf of Vaughan, and we'll take any questions you may have.
Thanks, Lou. Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for having us here today. And thank you to our friends from Vaughan, Canada. Thanks for making the trip over. I'm Emily Smith, the Secretary of GRSCI. I'm grateful to be here, and thank you for your support of our work. I really wanted to highlight the work of our Vaughan Inquiry City. Molly Grimes is the co-chair. She's done, along with her committee, a lot of work as being citizen diplomats, the people-to-people relationship building that's really important to the ethos of Sister Cities International and Grand Rapids Sister Cities International. So, Molly.
Yes, thank you, Emily, and good morning, everyone. My name is Molly Grimes, and I am co-chair for our Grand Rapids Sister Cities Canada Inquiry Committee. Thank you for having us here today. It is such a pleasure to be here along with some members of our committee. We're enthusiastically supporting the formalization of our sister city relationship with Vaughan, Ontario, Canada. Our connection with Vaughan began in 2023 when Sister Cities International matched our 2 cities based on shared economic, population, and cultural characteristics. Since then, over the last 3 years, through regular virtual meetings, our 4 official delegations between our cities, we've built a strong and active partnership with the support of our committee volunteers, community and business leaders, and city liaisons. Our sisterhood with Vaughan is rooted in strong connections across arts and culture, sports, city-to-city best practices, and key economic industries, including manufacturing and healthcare. Both Grand Rapids and Vaughan value creative placemaking, inclusive public spaces, and strong public-private partnerships. We see this relationship creating meaningful opportunities for community members, artists, industry leaders, and students, while also strengthening Grand Rapids' international presence and relationships. On behalf of Grand Rapids Sister Cities and our Canadian Inquiry Committee, I am honored to introduce to you Deputy City Manager Michael Genova from the City of Vaughan.
Thank you for that, Molly. And good morning, Mayor LeGrand, members of the Grand Rapids City Commission, and City Manager Washington. My name is Michael Genova. I'm the Deputy City Manager of Strategic Initiatives with the City of Vaughan, a municipality located in the Greater Toronto Area. And on behalf of our Mayor, Stephen Del Duca, and City Manager Zoran Postic, I'm honored to join you today to discuss our city's enthusiasm to enter into a sister city partnership with Grand Rapids, where Vaughan will become your first Canadian sister city. I want to recognize the dedicated staff from Grand Rapids, and in particular, City Manager Washington and Chief of Staff Luke Hansfield, and the remarkable team from the Grand Rapids Sister City Initiative for all their work over the past year to get us to this point in our partnership journey. Finally, I want to recognize Earl Provost, the Ontario government's Agent General responsible for the Midwestern United States, who first initiated the idea about Vaughan entering into a sister city agreement with Grand Rapids. So I want to take a few moments and share a little bit more about Vaughan with you, and that's an image of our City Hall. So, as noted, the City of Vaughan is located in the Greater Toronto Area and is directly north of Toronto, Canada's largest municipality. We have a population of 350,000 individuals, and our population is tracking towards over 500,000 by 2051. We're about 20 minutes away from Toronto Pearson International Airport, the largest airport in Canada, and we're part of an extensive rail network as well that stretches to Delta, British Columbia, and so for context, that's just north of Seattle in Washington State. We are about an hour from the Canada-US border in the Niagara region. Here we have, that's our Mayor, Mayor Stephen Del Duca, who was first elected in 2022. And Vaughan does have a city council of 10 elected officials. 5 of our councillors are elected to represent one of 5 municipal wards. 4 individuals are elected citywide and serve as local and regional councillors, so they serve on another council, an upper tier, similar in principle to your county arrangement. And like the mayor also serves on that York Region Council as well. Their terms are 4 years in length, and we are also in an election year as well. So I noted our transit corridors, our transit connections, but I do want to single out that Vaughan is the only municipality outside of Toronto to be connected to the subway. And our subway connection means that you can travel from our emerging downtown core, which we call the Vaughan Metropolitan Centre, which you can see there, an image there, into downtown Toronto in roughly 40 minutes or so. And Vaughan's businesses span a variety of different sectors and reflects a well-diversified economy. Of note, I do want to single out the Vaughan Healthcare Centre precinct. This is an 82 parcel of land, home to the city's first and only hospital, the Cordellucci Vaughan Hospital, and it's going to be home to the future York University School of Medicine, focused on training that next generation of primary care physicians. I singled this out because last June, when our Vaughan delegation was here in Grand Rapids, we had the opportunity to tour the Grand Rapids Research Centre and the Doug Meyer Medical Innovation Building, which is truly an inspiration. And it's something we're striving to do ourselves, a municipality that helps bring together healthcare, research, entrepreneurship, and innovation truly is a municipality that is elevating the quality of life for its residents. And when we think of our residents, we think of our people are our talent. So we have over 110 languages spoken in Vaughan. We have a highly educated workforce. We have connections to 9 universities, 14 colleges, and again, many of those post-secondary institutions are along that subway corridor. What you see here is an image of Niagara University, which is actually based in Lewiston, New York. They do have a binational campus, which is located in Vaughan, which is something we're very proud of. And this is a photo of mayor, members of council, and representatives from Niagara University celebrating the expansion of that footprint, which is in our Vaughan Metropolitan Centre core.
As I noted, in June 2025, we had the opportunity to have our delegation come visit Grand Rapids. And one thing that we have top of mind is constructing a future performing and cultural arts center. This is a leading city building initiative, and we had the opportunity as part of our study tour to tour the DeVos Performance Hall, which was highly impressive. And as part of that ongoing tour, we also had the opportunity to tour the Van Andel Arena. And we recently, just about 2 weeks ago, got a directive from council to undertake a feasibility study to look into our own arena and entertainment facility. So from those connections we made in June, we've been able to circle back with stakeholders and other representatives to get a better understanding of how Grand Rapids has done it so well and how we can transfer that knowledge to the city of Vaughan. When we think about Grand Rapids and we think about where Vaughan is headed, creative placemaking and public art is absolutely critical, and we saw firsthand the public art that is evident all throughout Grand Rapids. And this commitment to public art and placemaking, again, is shared by our council as well. Tourism is absolutely critical to the city of Vaughan. Conferences are a big sector. Sport tourism is another big sector. Our biggest sector really is friends and family coming to Vaughan to visit one another, going out to a local restaurant or taking in some of our local attractions. Like West Michigan, we have a Cedar Fairs amusement park, it's Canada's Wonderland, which is one of our largest employers in the city and a popular tourism destination. In terms of international partnerships, we have a number of international partnerships rooted in economic and cultural development. It's not uncommon for us to welcome different ambassadors and diplomats to the city of Vaughan, and just recently we had Ambassador Catanino, the Italian ambassador to Canada, come visit us. But most importantly, I would say that Grand Rapids would be the first American international partnership with the city of Vaughan, which we find very encouraging. Again, as noted in this presentation, there are several parallels between Vaughan and Grand Rapids, which presents opportunities for economic and cultural development, intergovernmental relations, advancing areas of public art, sports, culinary arts, governance as well. Vaughan's public art strategy certainly complements Grand Rapids' creative economy and cultural initiatives. In April, we were honored to welcome a delegation from Grand Rapids, including representatives from the Sister City group. And in July 2025, we were honored to welcome Mayor Legrand to Vaughan City Hall, where he had the opportunity to meet with our mayor, Stephen Del Duca. Furthermore, in 2025, Vaughan joined the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Cities Initiative, which is an organization that I know Grand Rapids is a member of. And this is a further commitment of the municipality to strengthen connections with the city of Grand Rapids, with the Midwest, and with the broader Great Lakes region as well. So in terms of next steps, with the support, of course, of the City of Grand Rapids Commission, Vaughan looks forward to welcoming a Grand Rapids delegation ourselves. We're tracking to April 14th, where we'll have the opportunity to prepare a report for Council's consideration to vote on entering into that Sister City Agreement, and we look forward to the opportunity to host the City of Grand Rapids for a formal signing ceremony at some point in 2026 as well. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks. Any questions, colleagues? Commissioner Kilgore.
Don't have any questions, but a comment. Thank you so much. I don't know any French, so I won't even try to butcher it. I think it's so interesting as our current president of the United States blocks a bridge to Canada, or is trying to block a bridge to Canada today. I think it is beautiful that we are once again modeling behavior and building a bridge between people and culture. I've had the opportunity to work with folks from Canada with the Healing Our Waters Coalition in Washington, D.C. The Embassy of Canada throws a nice get-together annually with the Healing Our Waters Coalition, and so I've been had the pleasure to work with you all. I'm wondering if you can explain, I do have one question, if you go a little bit more into the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence initiative. I'd love to hear more about that, but thank you, and I'm very excited to support this.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Commissioner, for the question. Yeah, this is an organization we joined about a year ago, and we have city staff who attend the conferences and who are part of an economic development working group as well, really recognizing that the value of trade that flows or the economic development value of that particular region I have here is about $6 trillion annually. And so it goes without saying that local government, our economic development professionals, as is the case in municipalities in Canada and across North America, the more we can build those relationships, it is very critical how those relationships can then advance progress in different areas. And so this conference, this working group is something we're new to, but something where we really feel we can advance that progress further. Thank you.
Thanks. Commissioner Belcher.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm just so thrilled, and I want to say thank you to Commissioner Kilgore for your well-worded note on what's going on in our world. And I want to say that it was such a pleasure to be able to meet you all yesterday at a reception and have dinner, and to get to know you each as persons, not just a delegation. And the conversation at the table was very enlightening and very jovial, and I really think that the care and the community that we are bringing together is an important aspect of what it takes to build good, strong, safe cities. So I'm looking forward to supporting this as well. And I just want to say thank you to the delegations, all the hard work that it takes. Thank you to Sister Cities. And I'm going to even say thank you to our manager, city manager. It's been a dream for some time, longer than we'd like to say, to have a partner in Canada, or in North America. So thank you for being our next door neighbor, and hopefully a real neighbor in another sense.
City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioner. I echo all the sentiments that have been shared. And Michael, thank you for being here today and partners with our Sister City delegation. I am very excited too today. I remember envisioning having a North American sister city north of us, because we only had secured that relationship in Mexico. And so today it really feels like we are building bridges to our community, other parts of the world. And one of the things I really was impressed when visiting Vaughan, you heard the growth trajectory is one of the fastest cities in Canada. And they are really taking growth seriously and doing it smartly. That City Hall is a result of them planning for growth, and the biggest department in their municipality, it seems like it's the planning department, because there's construction all over the place, and they have assessed the need for housing and have taken that challenge on, and there's a lot of density that's occurring in the downtown area, with a lot of towers that are being built to accommodate the future growth of their community. And so I think there are a lot of things that we can learn in how to prepare for growth and do it in a smart, urbanized way. So thank you for being here. Looking forward to a continued relationship.
And I don't mean to take away your objection, but the minute our city manager said north, I thought, well, it's really east. I'm not sure. It might actually be south of us. If we were in Cadillac, it would certainly be south of us. But yeah, I think Vaughan is essentially east of us, not north of us.
It's the country north of us, Mayor.
Some of it. I mean, we can revisit history. The Golden Triangle is below a lot of America. Also, Nova Scotia dips below Maine, so just saying. Anyway, thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right, so seeing no further quibbles about geography, I'd call for a vote. All in favor of formalizing the Sister City Agreement, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. That moves us on to our briefings. And the first is going to be from our city comptroller on the financial audit for the city.
All right, good morning, Mayor LeGrand and the city commissioners. In a moment, I will invite some of the team from Plant Moran here up to go over the results of the city's fiscal year 2025 audit. And then we're going to dive a little bit into the city's annual comprehensive financial report and look at the Residents Guide, which is a great resource we make available to the public to help digest and ascertain the city's overall financial position. So with that, I will welcome up Marie from Plant Moran. And Bill, excuse me.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. So I'm Bill Brickey with Plant Moran. With me today is Marie Stiegel, and we're here to talk about the audit for the year ended June 30, 2025. When we talk about the audit, there's really three separate deliverables that we'll be highlighting this morning. We have the financial statements, which is the very large bound document, and then we have two separate reports to the City Commission on audit-related matters. Before we get started, just want to take a brief moment and really thank your entire finance team for all their hard work throughout the audit. This was a challenging year with the implementation of the Oracle system, but happy to report the audit was completed and filed on time. So we appreciate all the efforts of your finance folks there. We have covered all these documents in detail with management, and our goal this morning is really just to provide you a high-level summary and certainly answer any questions that you may have about these documents. The first item I want to highlight is our opinion. So as your auditor, our main deliverable to you is our opinion on those financial statements. So included in the financial statements on page 1 is that audit opinion. And the city did receive what we refer to as an unmodified audit opinion, again in the current year, which essentially means the statements are in compliance with all the rules and regulations, and that's the highest form of assurance that we can provide on those statements. So happy to report that. In addition, I always like to point out, too, that the city does continue to prepare that annual comprehensive financial report and will receive an award from the Michigan Government Finance Officers Association for quality financial reporting. So it's more than required by the state of Michigan, and I think it really just shows the city's commitment to transparency and overall quality financial reporting. So with that, we're going to get into the other two reports that we issued today. I'm going to have Marie come up and kind of go through a few of the highlights there.
Thank you, Bill, and good morning. My name is Marie Stiegel. I'm the principal on the city's audit. And in addition to the audit opinion that Bill covered, there are two additional deliverables that I believe were provided in your packet. And I'm going to highlight the main takeaways from those documents that go over the end of audit communications that are required by auditing standards. The first, there's a document that's called End of Audit Communications, and I'll go over the highlights from that. And the second is the Report on Internal Controls, and I'll cover highlights from that as well. Starting with the end of audit communications, first, this just reiterates our auditor's responsibility, which is to audit the financial statements, not to prepare them, and to perform our work in accordance with the government auditing standards, which emphasize independence, objectivity, and professional skepticism. That letter also indicates any changes to accounting policies. So there was one new accounting policy that was required to be implemented this year, and that related to compensated absences, things like sick and vacation time, which the city records a liability for. So that new standard was implemented in accordance with the standard. In the annual comprehensive financial report, you'll see what's called a restatement to the beginning of the year balances, and that's required for the implementation of that standard, not a result of any error or anything like that. We also indicate that within the annual comprehensive financial report, certain estimates are required to prepare that. As part of our audit, we identify significant estimates that require judgment and perform audit procedures around those. Those significant estimates include the net pension liability, the net other post-employment benefit liability, which is the retiree health care, and income tax refund estimates. In all of those areas, certain assumptions and inputs go into developing those estimates. So we evaluated those and whether they're reasonable and consistently applied, and we determined that they were. We didn't encounter any significant difficulties during the audit other than some delays in the traditional timeline. Again, Bill mentioned the implementation of the Oracle system, so that anytime, a community that we're working with implements a new ERP system, it's often very challenging, and there was some complexities with that. But as Bill mentioned, the audit was still filed on time, so that's a credit to all those working on the audit preparation and process. In the communication, we do have to identify if there was any misstatements. So this means any audit adjustments to the financials that were recommended as part of our audit. We did recommend one audit adjustment this year. It related to debt that's issued by the city for the amphitheater and soccer stadium, for which other governmental entities are contractually obligated to pay for those debt service amounts. So the debt was recorded appropriately, but that other side of the transaction, the receivable, the long-term receivable from those other entities, we proposed an adjustment to that, which was recorded and reflected in the annual comprehensive financial report. Just want to highlight that's largely a financial reporting matter. It didn't impact any cash or budgeting items, just really a financial statement reporting item to show that other side of the transaction, really. Ultimately, this financing structure was different and unique than others that the city has, which went into us recommending that adjustment. As it relates to some of those estimates that I talked about earlier, we did have a recommendation, just as we have in past years, to continue looking at some of those assumptions, mainly the long-term rate of return as it's used in the other post-employment benefit liability actuarial valuation, just to ensure that continues to align with the investment strategies there. We also have to call out if there was certain adjustments that were identified by management as part of the audit that were ultimately not posted into the financial document. There were immaterial adjustments related to accrued payroll and revenue and receivable in one of the component units that were, again, determined to be immaterial, and we agreed with that determination, and they were therefore just posted into the next fiscal year. Within the large bound document, the beginning and end of that document includes the introductory and statistical sections. Those are the responsibility of the city, and there's no audit opinion given on those. So we do note that, but note that we read them for any material inconsistencies as it relates to the financial statements. Rounding out our end of audit communications, we did provide one recommendation related to internal controls. This just relates to vendor payment changes. So when a vendor is changing their ACH or electronic payment information. We did find that the city has informal policies related to how they, verify those changes, but we recommended strengthening those by documenting the changes and the approval to those changes, just to enhance the oversight and consistent application of those controls. Finally, in that letter, we provide a number of legislative and informal items, which I won't cover in detail, but we're happy to discuss them at any time further. There's some items in there related to some upcoming accounting standards, which we'll continue to work with the city to ensure are implemented going forward. All right, I'll move on to the report on internal controls. The purpose of the audit related to internal controls is to evaluate the design of the controls in order to develop our audit procedures. The audit does not provide an opinion on the effectiveness on internal controls per the auditing standards, but if there are any areas where there are deficiencies that rise to a certain level, those are required to be reported to you. As part of that, we did acknowledge that there were two findings reported in our letter this year. One relates to the timeliness of bank reconciliations. And again, this goes back to the ERP implementation. That was in May, so at the very end of the fiscal year. So there was, various complexities and challenges with reporting and other items associated with the ERP system, which did significantly delay the June reconciliation, which we rely on for the audit. So we noted that contributed to delays in the audit timeline. The other item that's reported in there just relates to that audit adjustment that I already mentioned related to the debt that's contractually supported by other entities, which we proposed an adjustment to, which due to the amount of that just rise to that level of required reporting. The other part of that letter is just to report if there's any non-compliance with laws, regulations, or contracts or grant agreements that have a material impact on the financial statements, and we did not identify any non-compliance to report to you today. There will be a forthcoming additional audit on the federal grant activity that has a little bit longer timeline when it's due, so that's being performed right now. And if there's any further communications related to that, we will come back and cover those as well. So to wrap things up, just wanted to point out the main takeaways. The city received the clean audit opinion, so the highest level of opinion that we can provide. It was completed and submitted to the state on time, despite significant challenges associated with the new ERP system implementation. Management is already addressing the findings that I mentioned through corrective action, but those findings related to financial reporting didn't impact day-to-day financial reporting, so that can make you feel comfortable that any interim reporting you're receiving for decision-making is in good shape. So with that, as Bill mentioned, I'd like to once again extend our gratitude to the city staff for their cooperation and professionalism during our audit, and thank you for your attention. We're happy to answer any questions that you might have at this time.
Colleagues, any questions? Commissioner Sassi.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for the presentation. There's a lot of information to be shared, so thank you for kind of clarifying that, operationally, as well as just the overall experience. When you mentioned the bank reconciliations, was that, you said that was a note for this year. Am I using the right terminology?
It's reported as what's called a finding, and those are classified as either material weakness.
So it was a written finding, not a verbal. Was that something from that we saw last year, or do you think this was specifically related to the Oracle implementation?
We did not see it last year. No, and it was largely related to
specifically in that month of June, and not in any other months.
May and June were the two after the ERP system implementation. Other months that we looked at, there were some delays. There was some, staffing issues as well, but it was largely related to the May and June.
I only asked because I run a nonprofit, and that was one of my notes that I had. And again, just trying to paint the picture of, obviously, technology implementation, operations. What was the average day for the average days for like to close out the month?
I don't have the average days. We specifically noted in the finding that the June reconciliation was being completed up into early December. And that was obviously the one that we are using for our audit procedures.
Great, and I'm sure I can talk to city manager about what that might look like right now. So, thank you for that information and painting that picture. Sometimes you might see a finding, but trying to understand what, all the other details behind it. And then, of course, what have, usually in the audit, what's the reconciliation to make sure that doesn't occur again. So it sounds like that was done as well.
Yes, as part of the findings, when you see the report, management provides their views, which is the corrective action that they plan to put in place to address that, which is, already occurring.
Yes. Okay, that's wonderful. Always good to hear that. So thank you so much.
Any other comments or questions, colleagues? Seeing none, thanks. And Mr. Comptroller, you had some follow-up?
I want to thank Bill and Maria and all their colleagues at Plant Moran for their partnership and the work they did on the audit this year. Thank you very much. We would like to just go into a little bit and give you a glimpse of the annual comprehensive financial report, which you all know is the big, almost 200-page binder full of very helpful financial information on the city's position. but it can often be, a lot for our residents to digest. And so the city for quite some time has put together a residents guide to city finances to help them on their journey of learning more about the city's financial position. So I'll run through a few highlights in there, and this is, of course, available on the city's website. And we tried to, in one page, really encapsulate the city's kind of overall financial position, just looking at some key measures here. So we have a snapshot of the city's overall revenues for the year, $677 million, and expenses of $574 million. Both of those increased relative to last year, and we'll look at some of the reasons for that as well. But a key thing when we look at the city's net position is the difference throughout the course of the year between those revenues and expenditures, and that ultimately impacts our net position that you see here on the right. So we had a positive increase of $96 million during the fiscal year, which is good, and that's because our revenues exceeded our expenditures. So the city's total net position as of the fiscal year end is just over $1.1 billion. And as you can see, that really reflects the difference between big picture, all the city's assets, and all the city's liabilities. When we go down a little bit and we look at just the general fund, which is the government's main operating fund, we have a, bless you, unassigned balance of just over $88 million. And in addition to that $88 million, there is also just under $19 million set aside for budget stabilization in a budget stabilization fund. And so the general fund also increased $10 million versus last year. So that is a good direction as well financially. Looking at the outstanding debt piece, there was a significant amount of debt issued during the fiscal year for major projects, of which everyone in the public are quite familiar with at this point. So as of today, we have, or fiscal year end, $674 million in outstanding debt. And the one thing I would call attention to is that the debt has been increasing in recent years. So not just from last year, but if we look, back a couple of years ago, we were at about $466 million, and so we're at $674 million now. So that is a substantial increase in the debt position that I think we should remain cognizant of. Now there are certain, agreements in place to help the city cover its debt servicing costs, which is great. But nonetheless, I just, want to highlight our liability position there. We have a little snapshot here on the credit rating from Standard & Poor's, AA. That's remained stable for the past several years. And then also pension and benefits, we stand around 77% funded when you look at all of the pension and other post-employment benefit plans. So each of the following slides kind of double clicks a little bit more, into these topics, just kind of give, residents insight into primary sources of, city revenue. Obviously, we have property and income taxes, but also charges for services like water, sewer, and parking. And as you can see, those make up a big chunk of the pie. But this year, I mentioned, there was some significant increases. So in this total government revenue number, there is $52 million associated with money we anticipate receiving from the Kent County's lodging tax from the Convention Arena Authority. And then on the revenue side, $574 million, you can see again, main expenditures, public safety, public works, water, sewer, and general government expenses. And similar as revenue was up significantly, so were expenses. And again, there's a big capital construction cost component here of $76 million pertaining to the amphitheater and soccer stadium. If you just pulled those figures out, we would still be up revenues. Pull those projects out and how they're impacting the financials, we would still probably be up both in revenue and expenditures for this year as well. This vendor detail slide is just going kind of one layer deeper into the city's expenses. Granted, there's a lot of expenses, right? But these are some of the organizations or businesses that the city works with. We work with, thousands of entities and organizations and individuals are paid. But this list on here really constitutes, organizations that have been paid at least $2 million or more. So it just gives the public a little bit more visibility in some of the primary organizations that the city is working with. We have a slide here just covering tax abatements for the fiscal year 2025, showing about $4.8 million was abated. And the bulk of that you can see in those top two programs there, the main one being the brownfield. This is that net position slide, just again looking at that big picture change in the city's overall assets and liabilities. It kind of walks through the contributors there, but as mentioned before, ultimately we had a positive $96 million increase in our net position, and directionally speaking, the net position increasing positive is good versus the opposite. Just looking at the general fund a little bit more, we break down some of the other components in addition to that $88.4 million unassigned balance. That is the unconstrained amount that is available to be spent. We have a slide that breaks down the debt position just a little bit more because there's different types of debt that the government issues. We have government debt, which is backed by taxpayer revenue, and then the business type debt is more focused on our business type activities like water, sewer, parking, stuff that generates income from those business type activities. And so what we try to visualize here is to show the debt servicing costs as a percentage of the total revenue associated with these funds. And then just breaking down the city's pension and OPEB obligations and liability a bit more. 5 plans out there, thousands of people still participating in these plans. Today, the city has a net pension and OPEB liability of $325 million. And overall, we are, if you aggregate or average across all 5 of these plans, we stand about 77% funded. And we are higher on the funding side for both the pension and OPEB. State of Michigan does set some guidelines there, which we detail here a little bit more, and the city does exceed those guidelines that would consider when a plan is underfunded. So we're not in that position. And then we just have some other helpful information in here to give residents access and links to some other helpful resources, who their city officials are, and so forth. So that's the really quickest possible version of our 200-page, more detailed annual comprehensive financial report. And happy to take any feedback or questions you have right now.
Great. Colleagues? Great presentation, pretty clear, and looks like on balance good news, so it's reassuring. Thanks for the presentation.
Yep, thanks for your time this morning.
All right, that moves us on to our second update, and this is on work on greenhouse gas reduction projects. Mr. Matthews is coming up with our head of sustainability, our sustainability director. Go ahead.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, Mr. Mayor. Today we're going to be providing an update on, went a little too fast, update on our greenhouse gas reduction initiative, specifically 2. The first is working with Vicinity Energy and their eSteam program, as well as pursuing solar on our Butterworth landfill. I'm going to provide a brief background just on some of the initiatives, as well as a preliminary analysis from our climate plan and our implementation analysis. Then I will pass it to Assistant City Manager Matthews to cover more information about the initiatives and some considerations. So the city has been working with Vicinity Energy regarding their eSteam program over the last 2 years, and during that same time period, the city has also been working to secure a solar developer to supply the city's primary circuit for the Butterworth landfill site with renewable energy. Now, the eSteam initiative was one of the 20 actions prioritized by City Commission during the Climate Action Adaptation Planning process, but the Butterworth Solar Initiative was labeled as kind of an in-progress action, so it was not included on that list. Today, both programs are at a point where decisions need to be made either to move forward or to defer. Now, Now, as part of our climate plan implementation strategy, we contracted with Fresh Coast Climate Solutions to calculate the greenhouse gas emission potential and cost for climate plan initiatives. And that was pursuant to the discussion on and acceptance of the plan on August 12th. We contracted with Fresh Coast at the end of August under the City Manager Spending Authority, and while final reports will be available in the spring, this discussion includes some of their preliminary calculations for both projects. So starting off, our Vicinity E-Steam program is featured in our Buildings and Industry chapter of the Climate Plan Strategy 4, Action 3, partnering with Vicinity Energy to continue to implement efficiency projects and pursue electrification of the steam generation district and the sourcing of renewable energy. Now, the average annual cost to the city would be around $310,000, with a 20-year cost estimation at $6.2 million. The greenhouse gas emission reduction that was found by Fresh Coast is 15,000, a little bit over 15,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent, which is our unit of measurement for greenhouse gas emissions. However, that is for if the entire program is utilized at Vicinity. If it's just the city's portion, that's just a little over 1,100 metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. For the city's cost per metric ton, it's around $20.56, and the reduction for the city's portion of that E-Steam would be 0.05% of the community-wide total greenhouse gas reduction options. If you're including the entire E-Steam program, it's more like 0.61% reduction. For our Butterworth Solar, you can find that in the Climate Plan under Energy System Strategy 4, Action 6, maximizing the local benefits of our city's renewable energy portfolio, both by our renewable natural gas generation at the city's biodigester, but as well as pursuing solar at Butterworth Landfill. Now, because we're pursuing a power purchasing agreement, which Assistant City Manager Matthews will describe, the average annual cost of the city is around $2,900. And these costs are not from our Fresh Coast Climate Solutions, but are instead from the developers and the proposals that we received. So the 20-year cost estimation is around $58,000, and that is due to comparing the cost for Consumers Energy's renewable energy program that we've already agreed to sign on for because we want to continue to meet our renewable energy goal. So the greenhouse gas emission reduction for this goal for this action is 539 metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. That cost per metric ton is around $5.38, and that leads to a community-wide reduction of just 0.02%. And now I will pass it on to Assistant City Manager Matthews to move forward.
Thank you. Okay, so we're first going to talk about E-Steam, which is one of the items that you all had selected in your 20 priority actions. The way that program works, the city would subscribe to the E-Steam program. That would guarantee that the steam that's provided to us would be through their electric boiler using renewable energy. That would, one of the benefits of this is that it diverts greenhouse gases locally. So the burning of gas right now is happening just a few blocks from where we're at, where, for instance, right now on the renewable energy program, though that's virtually saving greenhouse gas emissions that might not be actually generated here locally. Some of the considerations looking at the project. We could, if we wanted to reduce costs slightly in the short term, opt for a partial subscription. That means that part of the portfolio would be coming from consumers' standard generation, part would be coming from renewable generation. This provides us with a fixed rate. So we'd have a guaranteed rate over time versus the gas rates, which can be volatile, but generally over recent years have been lower than the same comparable costs for electrical energy. The renewable energy program subscription is limited, which is why we want to talk about this now. So that availability window is closing at their current rates in their proposal. We don't know when the next window might open. We could still subscribe to the program, but it would be on just open generated energy. One of the things that we need to talk about is the unfunded budgetary impact and the term of this commitment. We're talking about a 20-year term. We'd like to bring this forward as an item for formal discussion as part of the actual budget process. The other piece that we'll probably bring forward here shortly is an update to the ordinance. So the city is in a unique position. We are both the regulator and we are a customer of the STEAM district. In that role, we hold in ordinance the tariff for the STEAM district. It did not, when it was developed, contemplate the utilization of alternative energies for the generation of steam. So all of the calculations that are in there are based on the burning of gas. So we have some draft language that will effectively allow them to sell this as a subscription in addition to traditional generation. That's something that doesn't obligate us as a customer, but it gives them a pathway to be able to offer this to other customers that might want to be able to use it. So looking at Butterworth, we are in the final evaluation for proposals for 2 megawatts of solar at the landfill site. This would be a PPA. So the project would be owned by the developer. We would purchase that generated power at agreed upon rate. That agreement notably includes maintenance and operation and includes generation guarantees over the life of the solar array. We would, if we chose, have the option to purchase. The recommendation is if we wanted to exercise that option, it would be after year 6, and that's because that's when the accumulated tax credits for the project would fall off and be fully depreciated. This one provides indirect diversion, similar to what it is that we're doing with the renewable energy program. So when we look at the costs of the renewable energy program, the solar is slightly higher over the term. The overall project cost, we should note, was actually reduced by $3 million via the state grant that we received to extend the primary circuit. One of the big blockers that we had on this project in the past was that any project developer also had to assume cost for the extension of the primary circuit. So we've spent the last almost 2 years working on an alternative to take that off the table and buy down the cost of the project. The initial year, if we look at the projections, the initial year cost difference is about $150,000, and that's because there's a gap year between when the project would go live and when we would anticipate our REP program subscription starting with Consumers Energy. So the big thing for us, the big date for us is July 4th. If we get the project started, we turn dirt on the ground before July 4th of 2026, we have another 3 years to finish the project. Quixotically, if it's after July 4th, it has to be done by the end of the calendar year. And that's the reason why we want to get this in front of you so that we can make a decision. So pending our final review, we still have some conversations to have with Consumers Energy to make sure that there's no hidden or unanticipated costs that we might not be considering. We'd like to be able to bring this forward to you at the next meeting this month. So in summary, with Vicinity, we're looking at about $6.2 million over 20 years at 100% renewable utilization. Ms. Wilkinson covered what our potential reductions would be. We're going to bring forward that updated language, again, hopefully at the 224 meeting, so that we can at least get that piece started. And then we'll bring forward an item for discussion as part of the budget in terms of the longer-term subscription. For Butterworth, we're looking at about $58,000 over the 20-year period. We really need to bring this back on the 24th if we have any hope of getting the engineering done to be able to start construction before July 4th. One note that I want to make that's not included on here that was also in your priority list, we had a number of items that were centered around food policy. There's another discussion item we're hoping to bring forward soon, specifically around the city's organics processing and the next phase in that project. But I will save that for the next time that we talk. As Ms. Wilkinson mentioned, we're approaching having a full analysis from Fresh Coast Climate Solutions in terms of all of the items that are in the Climate Action and Adaptation Plan. In March, we should be able to bring back those top 20 so that you have a point of perspective on how those might help contribute. So with that, we'll open it up to questions.
Thanks. I'll point out a couple things that I think the analysis doesn't capture that are worth pointing out. One is that the nature of energy transmission is you lose energy over time, over distance. And so one of the advantages of the solar project at Butterworth is that that power is going to be used very, very close to where it's being produced. And so that's a benefit to the universe. It's not necessarily something that we capture in the city, but it's worth pointing out from a design standpoint. That's a desirable feature. The other thing that's worth pointing out is that when we talk about these sorts of initiatives, partly because the world has gotten our air has gotten so much cleaner since the Clean Air Act, we often go directly to CO2 analysis, which is good and important, but particularly the Vicinity Project, what we're talking about is actually a point source of pollution in our city that I don't think you could hit from here with a baseball, but you could, it's close. So in our downtown core, we have energy generation that's happening with natural gas. And natural gas has it's cleaner than coal, but it's not cleaner than solar. And so this Vicinity proposal is directly tied into them, in turn going out and getting renewable sources for the electricity that they're using. And so the reason this is costing is not so much that they're doing an e-steam boiler as that they're going out and getting renewable sources for that electricity, and they're passing that along with no markup. So we're getting the direct value of them. They're not taking any profit or rent seeking or whatever from passing along that renewable energy. But to the extent that we do this, we are actually reducing point source pollution in downtown Grand Rapids. And so we're not just getting CO2 benefits for people in Paris. We're also getting actual cleaner air in the city. And I think that's really important to point out to the citizens. And I guess I can't help, I'm just going to take a soapbox moment here. I am appalled that our energy companies are currently being forced to keep open a coal burning plant, which is directly upwind from us. There's a big coal burning plant, and prevailing westerly winds mean all of that coal energy production on the shore of Lake Michigan in the Port Sheldon neighborhood, all of that particulate matter is essentially blowing here. And so to the extent that our Butterworth program can move us towards a world where that point source contamination for the entire region is becoming obsolete. That's for me at least an important reason to take this seriously, because I look forward to the day. I rejoiced when there was a plan to shutter that plant, and I made a press release about it, and I was really excited that we were getting rid of a coal plant on Lake Michigan, and turned out it was all a mirage. So, but nonetheless, if we can build towards that plant being irrelevant, I think that's an important value for us to lean into. Colleagues? Commissioner Belcheck.
Thank you. I'm very happy to see this moving forward, and I really want to commend the Sustainability Department and all the work that you guys are doing. To move forward the cost analysis so quickly and bring it to us, I think is really great. So good job. I would like to, if you could take a moment to review again what you were saying about the subscription versus what's going to be in the budget this year, and just help me understand that a little bit better.
Yeah, so this, I believe this item predates the newly seated commission. We had brought forward an item because our previous arrangement with Consumers Energy for renewables was expiring, and they were moving everybody into a new program called the REP, the Renewable Energy Program. That program allows us effectively to purchase a portion of one of their projects. And that guarantees that we are virtually receiving power from that portion of their projects. And then over time, they're providing us with a rebate on our power from the collective benefit of that particular project. So we pay a 6.5 cent premium on our power per kilowatt hour for that. And then you see over time, if you look at the projections, right around year 7 or 8 is when we start seeing an actual lower cost for our energy than if we were paying standard rates. So when we had to calculate what the cost of a PPA was, it wasn't just what are we paying for power, what would we be paying for a PPA? It was what are we paying for power plus 6.5 cents minus the projected rebate over those 20 years, and then look at that bottom line. The PPA rate does escalate over time, and then we did an estimate for what the same for what consumers' traditional escalation has been over that same period of time. So there's likely some room in those numbers because we don't know what consumers' rates are going to be 18 years from now, but we do know what the pattern has been over time, and that's what we used to do the calculation. So when we did the comparison, those were the two sets of numbers that we were looking at for the project.
And is there a difference between what, like you're saying, offset, like, I guess the part I'm trying to understand too is if we do the e-Steam more fully, how does that change our subscription or vice versa?
So the e-Steam boiler, and Jesse, I apologize if I don't get this 100% right. We do have vicinity in the room. So the e-Steam boiler, they can toggle that on and toggle that on based on who they have subscribed for how much power. They can either provide that through renewable power, or they can provide that through standard consumers' energy power based on what it is that we choose. So that's the first choice. The second choice is we can say, you know what, we'd love to be 100% on electronic steam, but we want to hedge on cost, so we're going to subscribe for half of our steam to be generated through the new e-boiler. We do have that as an option if we want to reduce the costs. But then you also have a requisite difference in the greenhouse gas emissions that go along with it.
Would that be a permanent or flexible choice?
Well, that would be a question that I can engage with Vicinity because what they're looking for, it would be flexible if we were just on generated power. It's a little bit more complicated if we're on renewable power because Vicinity has to subscribe with consumers the same way that we did, which means they're committing to 20 years of renewable energy. So they would expect us to also subscribe to 20 years of renewable energy in order to have a guarantee that they're covering their costs.
Thank you. And just the last question, is this what you're talking about will be in this year's budget, or you're talking about the Butterworth being in this year's budget potentially?
Butterworth is going to be likely a decision at the end of the month. The e-Steam is the one that we want to bring forward as part of the budget because it has a long-term meaningful impact on the budget. We want to make sure that we have a thoughtful discussion about it.
Great. Thank you very much.
And Mayor, if I could just clarify, we'll have to evaluate whether or not we will be able to bring it forward as part of this year's budget. So I didn't want to make it seem like we're already committing to the subscription, but certainly we want to try to do it, but that will have to be evaluated.
Yep. Commissioner Kogar?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Matthews and Ms. Wilkinson for your presentation and your work on this. We don't see you all nearly enough. And I will be looking forward to March for a larger conversation on where we are with the cap. If you could please remind me of where e-Steam would fit in on our prioritization by both the commission and we also had community partners that prioritized work. Where does that fit in? Was that high priority? Was that low priority for commission, just to see how this will fit into what we already moved forward on?
I don't know that we ranked the priorities. I think we just by consensus created 20 priorities. So I'm not sure how to answer the question.
So did that fit into those ranked priorities?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so the E-Steam was one of the 20 priorities that you all established when we had the conversation.
Getting us off of those fossil fuels and the sort of archaic energy types. So, of course, I think it's good. I've met with the vicinity team. I'm looking forward to the further conversation in the budget of how we fit that in there. The number, I think, could look striking to some, even though it is across 20 years. It's still, we have to see how that fits into our first, I think we do it in 5-year forecast. I'd love to see how that fits in that 5-year, and then going forward. Now, in terms of the supportive, but tentatively, and how it would fit in with our overall budget, because we want to make fiscal prudent decisions for the community. And then with Butterworth Solar, now that seems much more accessible and feasible. And I think this is, as you said, been a priority of multiple commissions now, and folks within community. As someone who continues to work in the environmental community here locally, folks who are engaged on this issues throughout our neighborhoods want to see this. So it's not only a commission priority, but a community priority. So as this comes to the end of the month, I really I'm hopeful to see this move forward and would be supportive of that. So thank you for this. Supportive of both. Butterworth, 100% thumbs up right now. And the vicinity E-Steam, looking forward to that larger conversation on if that's feasible. Thank you so much.
Any further comments, colleagues?
Just one other comment, Mayor. As we bring forth the Butterworth item, I'm going to ask Mr. Matthews to also give the commission an update on the parking conversations that are occurring on Butterworth. I know the CAA is very interested in a portion of the parcel there, and also has had some public conversations. So we should be able to bring everybody else up to speed at our next briefing.
Great. And actually, to that end, to the extent you said you're going to get this engineered, right? I would appreciate it if you would at least have some initial thinking about engineering if there's going to be parking out there, having solar above the parking. It's an obvious possibility.
That was a discussion that we had almost 2 years ago with our pre-qualified developers. At the time, what they told us was you could expect about 150% increase to the cost. Your parking at that point would have to be significantly larger because you have to ballast the solar panels, and you'd have to have big ballasts to put those solar panels high enough to go over parking. So it was a conversation that we had. It didn't pencil out. But I do want to let you know that was my first question as well. But it just didn't seem like it was going to be feasible unless we had outside funding.
Great. Okay. Thanks.
Mayor, in line with that, was there any further conversation about green space activation at the park, or were we allowed for that? That was also a good idea, but I don't know where that came from.
Yeah,
I don't know where that went. Excuse me.
I don't want to step on Parks and Economic Development's work, but DGRI has been involved in the conversations. There is a longer-term plan for the whole of the Butterworth site. So we've had some conversations about making sure that the uses are compatible. And part of that conversation, we'll talk about parking. One of the questions that I had when it came to having parking on the site is whether or not that parking could be contributory to future active uses on the site. So all of those are active parts of the conversation.
Thank you. Thanks, Mayor.
Thanks. Thanks. I think we'll move on to our next presentation then, and that's an update on mobility planning. See Ms. Smith coming up.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Jessica Smith. I'm the Mobile GR Director, and thanks for this opportunity to provide this briefing today. This presentation really builds on the memo that's in your packet and provides an overview of a proposed mobility blueprint for the city, what it is, why it's needed now, and how the city will continue advancing safety, maintenance, and priority investments while this work is underway. So Grand Rapids really has a strong vision for mobility and transportation development. You can go to the next slide. Oh, I have to click, all right. There we go, perfect. I have the power. So we already have a really strong vision for mobility in Grand Rapids, and that's been seen through the Vital Streets Plan, our recently adopted community master plan, and also the regional Grand Valley Metro Council Vision Zero Regional Safety Action Plan. So with these clear vision and goals around safety, connectivity, and mobility choice, the mobility blueprint is about operationalizing that vision and connecting adopted policy direction to how we prioritize transportation investments in capital projects. So last time we were meeting, we were talking about the community engagement framework, and this is that process map, and I wanted to share with you all where we are in this process. So with the community master plan, there was a chapter on mobility, and there was a lot of conversations about mobility and transportation with the community. So now we're looking at how we implement those visions found in the community master plan. You're also running through steps 8, 9, and 10, where we're looking at evaluating and learning, closing out the loop, coming back and reporting to you all on what we have been hearing and what we've been learning, and then really encouraging that shared learning together. The big blue arrow there is where you start again with a community engagement process for something like a mobility blueprint, and then we start all over again. But I just wanted to point out where we're at with our process today. So with the mobility blueprint, we want to continue that community engagement, and this work really follows in that framework, and the blueprint builds on extensive engagement that's already been done throughout the community master plan and other citywide initiatives. So we are now moving into this phase where we translate what we've learned into implementation guidance and investment priorities. So that threshold of engagement really looks like, for the mobility blueprint, anticipating an involved level of engagement, meaning that we gather that input that directly informs the framework and prioritization approach, and then that effort builds on that prior co-create threshold of engagement that you saw in the community master plan. So let's talk about the shared learning. So what we've really been hearing over the past several years are consistent themes that have emerged across commissions, advisory commissions, community partners, and residents. So starting with the Vital Streets Oversight Commission, the commission has been really diligent about ensuring that voter-approved Vital Streets income tax has been prioritized to deliver on the good and fair commitments made for our road assets, and those resources are distributed fairly across our city wards. So at the same time, the Vital Streets Oversight Commission has raised important questions about how we prioritize and integrate additional mobility improvements, particularly connected pedestrian and bicycle facilities, alongside traditional asset maintenance work, and how we braid funding sources together to deliver all of those improvements. So we've also heard from your Mobile GR Commission, which has emphasized safety for vulnerable users and alignment with the Community Master Plan, Vision Zero, and your other adopted plans. So neighborhood associations, business districts, and corridor organizations have asked for clear understanding of how transportation projects are prioritized and sequenced, and businesses have expressed concerns around parking impacts, construction disruption, and the need for more predictable mitigation strategies. So during your own City Commission workshop last fall, the commissioners asked for clear direction on transportation investment priorities and how we make those as a team. So taking all this together, this feedback points to the same need, a shared framework to guide transportation decisions in the city. So with the community master plan implementation, the mobility blueprint is really the city's effort to implement that bridge between the community master plan and the capital improvement program. It should define transportation investment policy using a safe systems approach, identify gaps in the mobility network, and connect existing regional and local plans into one coordinated framework. So this is exactly the kind of work building consistency and connectivity in the transportation system that gives the vision of a vibrant Grand Rapids an operational path forward. So it provides a single reference point for that mobility capital planning and project prioritization. So this doesn't mean that we just pause everything we're doing at Mobile GR and across the city in the mobility efforts. We will continue to do critical work around safe routes to school improvements, prioritizing high injury and high risk network corridor safety improvements, neighborhood traffic calming programs, regular design standard updates. We consider the impacts of grant funded projects, required maintenance, and data collection around parking in neighborhood districts. neighborhood business districts. And so this ensures that we maintain momentum on safety and maintenance while being intentional about larger transformational corridor decisions. So with this, the next steps are really to incorporate any feedback into final implementation approach, scope, and timeline for the community, for the mobility blueprint, publish an RFP, and bring on a consultant team to help us with that analysis, continue community engagement based on our framework for the city, probably at an involved level. And then there will be a funding request to continue this effort in the fiscal year 27 budget submission. Major project milestones are in front of you, pre-work, and then different phasing to move through the project together. This is just an illustration of a phased project approach to developing that blueprint. This structure really ensures that we have transparency, community input, and alignment with future capital investment decisions. So really, this blueprint represents an opportunity to bring clarity, predictability, and alignment for how the city plans and invests in its transportation system. So by connecting adopted policy, community engagement, and future capital investments, the city can really move forward with greater confidence and consistency. Thank you. Do you have any questions for me?
Mayor, before the commission begins to make inquiry, may I point out an item in the memo I want to bring to the attention of the public and the commission. And it's, Joel, it's on her briefing memo, it's the last page of it. Yep, all the way down. Thank you. Yep, so if you go down to down 208, page 208. More. Right there. So I want to make sure the commission and the public's aware. In the presentation, Ms. Smith said it, but I want to it to be clear in black and white. While we will continue those important things around safety and maintenance, there is a sense of we need to take a serious pause while we do the study on some of those transformational corridors. And I wanted to point to the language that's in the memo, as well as the public and any media covering the story, so that we're not misunderstood on what we're doing. Thank you.
Colleagues? Commissioner Belcher.
I just want to say, congratulations. This is so great to see the very first team presenting with the new community engagement framework and using it as the framework for your presentation. So I give everybody who worked on that kudos, because that's really, really great to see that in action. I think that it's really a smart plan that you've put forward. I think that it's going to be very interesting to see community feedback, to get the blueprint in place. And I think the thing I'm most excited about is that when this gets put into place and finalized, it's actually addressing those needs that you have so clearly pointed out, that you've been listening to, that we've all been hearing from the community, from us, from all these different sources. So, you know, if we can be clear and connected and do our streets that way, then we're going in the right direction. So thank you. I just really, really impressed.
So I want to weigh in and you know, respond, I think, a little bit to the presentation, but also to your note, City Manager. And I hope we're going to be in alignment here, but I at least want to discuss it a little more. First, I think this is great. I think the idea of this work is great, but I'm concerned that it's necessary but not sufficient. In other words, this is not me saying we shouldn't do this work. However, I am concerned that as we look at these things, that there's a category that this framework doesn't really address. And specifically, that's experimental things. And I've said before that I think that there's a category of things that we have to look at and ask if something is cheap, fast, and reversible. And reversible is an important part of that criteria for me, that we should be willing to explore things that we can experiment with. So to put it crudely, if there's a place where we can put in a bike lane, and if it's wrong and it does something terrible and it snarls traffic or it, harms any of the dynamics, has unforeseen consequences, that if it's reversible, we can say, right, we tried that and we're not going to do that anymore. So I think that often traditionally in city systems, often things are built for sort of a 30-year standard or a 50-year standard, which is great if you're talking about a sewer pipe, right? You don't want to dig up the ground every 5 years because you built a 5-year sewer line. That's not a good idea. And you don't want a 5-year asphalt. Nobody likes their roads ripped up. Nobody likes durable projects not being durable. On the other hand, some of the work that we can do in this, you've got a 2-year timeline for the blueprint to evolve, but I think in those 2 years, I 100% agree, City Manager, and I'm taking your memo to mean big projects that we can't reverse, we really should be pausing until we have our act together, until we have a clear vision. So if we're going to do, and I'll just name an example, there's a new bike lane on division between Fulton and Michigan. Well, it's really not reversible. The concrete is poured, it is raised above the city, above the level of the city street. That's the kind of project that, once you've done it, you're really not going to undo it. Same with the Turner bike lane, really not going to undo that. It's really done. But I do think that there are categories out there that we should be thinking about, and I just want to flag it, and asking ourselves, are there things out there that we can upgrade? And for example, this may sound really trivial, but here's an example. A lot of our bike lanes in the city are striped with a white line. I think if we stripe those with a green line, more motorists would notice that, oh, that's a bike lane. When I see a white line on the street, I'm not that worried about it. I'm worried about yellow lines. I know I'm not supposed to cross those or I crash. White lines, I don't know, more insignias in the bike lanes. Like those aren't things that need a 20-year plan to and they're also reversible. We could take out the little bike lane signs in a bike lane if we wanted to. But we could I think that we also have, and I think we all know, the community knows, we all know, there are some projects that are simply, they're not continuous. And so the opportunity to make continuity between the investments that we've already made, I think those are things where we should have the conversation, particularly if they meet the criteria of, like I said, cheap, fast, reversible. So I think that there are places where we can be looking at connectivity and completion even while we're doing this. So I just wanted to flag that. I think that the rhythm of making sure that we get a long-range plan right and that we do it right is absolutely essential. But I also don't want us to halt progress. I want us to halt long-range, irreversible things until we get it right. But I don't want to halt progress. And again, I will throw this out for something that shocked me when I heard it at. I sit on the Rapid Board, and there are about as many people now in the city who bike as who use to get to work as who use public transit. Like that's a really impressive number. And so, if there's a growing adoption of multimodal transportation, we shouldn't thwart that energy. So, just wanted to say that. Commissioner Isasi.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for this presentation. I really appreciate when I was reading the memo and just looking at this presentation, these were a lot of the calls over the last year that I've gotten into my office. And I know even in the past, other colleagues have gotten to their office specifically around small business needs. And I think we're just at a really critical point. Unfortunately, I get a lot of my information from social media, and Facebook, tells me what's going on in Grand Rapids a lot of the times. It doesn't mean we all have individual truths, and so much that I've seen lately on social media, and then many of you know I work with small businesses, is that they're challenged right now. They're challenged because people don't have additional income. They're challenged because of the weather. They're challenged because of, quite honestly, the federal government. And so I think right now, what we need to do more than anything is provide clarity and consistency to our small business owners. And so I feel like this is a step to provide that clarity. I think we learned a lot of things. I think back to some of the construction that was happening in the Granville Cesar Chavez corridor a few years ago. That sort of to me was like the tipping point of some of this conversation. That was almost 2 years ago, I think, right, Ms. Behrens? And so I think that's that balance of the city stuff is it does take time because we have different regulations, we have different laws, we have different funding dynamics. And so I would also say, and maybe to your point, Mayor, kind of what are the things that we've tried? Commissioner Kilgore and I were at the Easttown Pancake Breakfast this week, and they talked about actually some of the I think it was at least one roundabout that they had worked with Mobile GR on as like, let's put this up because we're kind of hearing this. So I think your point is well taken of what are the things that we can try, and maybe, and admittedly, I'm not as close to this, but that was a reminder as we were preparing for this meeting that we do have some examples when we've tried that. I was looking at our Monroe Business Association. There's been a couple of things specifically as like not just Silva, but Corwell Health and Silva. There's been some work that you all have done, and again collectively on some stop signs, because those used to be streets that people just like rode through, and now there's a lot more pedestrians. So maybe we could also, as we go through this, and to me it's like I see it says pause, but it's really it's to me this is an intentional engagement. We have this framework. We could talk about some of those things that we've done with different business associations or neighborhood associations. They were really appreciative, and they were just kind of talking about that walkability for them, and they really enjoyed that. And then so that's my comment. I think it's like a both and of what is the certainty that we can provide people is that we know that there is a lot of uncertainty right now, and I think this allows that. And then how can we review some of the things that we have tried, and what are some of the innovations that we've done? Especially, I know we've talked, a lot of our businesses, how do we slow down the traffic so people will go into these businesses and want to engage with them? And then, so that's just one comment to support this ongoing conversation. And then the other thing I would say also, I think our corridor improvement authorities, and just we made an investment in some additional, an additional role for corridor improvements at the last meeting. So I think that ties into this work too. So that was going to be my question, and maybe more so for City Manager Ms. Smith than for you is, how are we ensuring that this new, and again, there's a lot of things that we've done, we have master plan, but we have the this new community engagement framework. How do we make sure that is getting to all our citizen boards and bodies, because sometimes I think what happens, and I can think of a couple examples, is we're here, we're affirming these things, we all know about it, and then we have these citizen members who it's once a month or once a quarter. So I just want to make sure that's how is that overlapping, engaging? And I know, an example, you're over Mobile GR, Ms. Behrens, and then you're over economic development. So you're probably making sure those connection points happen, but just wanted to highlight that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, and I'll speak to it. Certainly, Ms. Smith will take that feedback into account when we're talking about the various efforts that we make to go to different commissions. So the Mobile GR Commission obviously will be leading the engagement strategy here, but we'll be at Planning Commission and can work with economic development staff to hit all the CIAs at the right time in the development of the mobility blueprint. Also, we've talked before about our process improvement that has been underway to date, which has covered the construction period, and now we're sort of in parallel talking about the design of those projects. We've had economic development representation in our process improvement team throughout that process to find ways to more formally and predictably build that bridge into the various business associations and corridor improvement authorities and neighborhood associations. How are we communicating? When are we communicating? Where's that feedback loop is all part of what we're also constructing sort of in parallel to this on the side. So appreciate it.
Mayor, I just would add, when Ms. Riley Markovich did the presentation, one of the things we wanted to do was to cascade this throughout the organization. So we still have departments that are being trained on this new framework. So that part, so there's internal work. We happen to have, I want to commend Ms. Smith because we happen to have, people are ready to embrace it now on major efforts and initiatives, but there's still a lot of work internally in the city to make sure all of our departments are aware of the engagement framework.
Commissioner Kilgore?
Yeah, I am happy to see this coming before us. I concur with my colleagues, Commissioner Isasi and the mayor. I want to delve into a little bit more of the sort of experiment. I think we do need to be able to be responsive is what I'm hearing, and what I certainly think we need to allow for community for us to be responsive. So I'm happy about the framework. I was the chair of the Vital Streets Oversight Commission, and I think that is helpful for folks who are, I came in, like at first I was vice chair, and then the chair left to Hawaii. I was hoping that was something you got if you were the chair of that. It did not happen, but I think that would be very helpful for our community members who serve on these boards, just to see a bigger picture. And we have Commissioner Isasi's note of that. Roundabout is a good example, but also on Vital Streets, working when we got the scooters at first, of where to put those scooters. So those little squares, the white squares that we're familiar with now, that was sort of a quick responsive action that I think the team worked really well on. So I think there really has to be that space for that within community, just so we can be responsive. So happy to see this and want to concur with, I'm hopeful that we will also be able to sort of walk and chew gum at the same time, making sure we make prudent decisions and have a framework for it, but also be able to be responsive and sort of have ideas within community, get feedback. If it works, we keep it. If not, we listen to that feedback and take it back. So thank you so much for your presentation.
Great, thanks. Sorry, Commissioner Perdue?
Yes, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for the update. Looking forward to this process playing out. I have a question for the dais and really for City Manager and maybe you, Ms. Smith, but will we get a list of those projects, those larger projects that will be paused during this process?
I think what we can do when we prepare the budget, we typically have a list of some of the planned capital improvements for the upcoming year. And so you'll see which ones we're planning. Regarding the ones that we're going to put on pause, I've yet to see a list. So I'll have to follow up with the staff and see if there's something that's already planned that's going to be paused.
Yeah, is that something that you all have on hand? Because you all are stopping some projects, right?
What I'm sharing is that there are a couple, obviously, that we've already indicated we're going to take a pause, like the Wealthy Street Initiative. That's the major one that I'm aware of at this time. The others, we're going to review the capital planning effort, and the ones that we will put forth in the budget will be the ones that we will say we will do. Those will not be paused. So other than the one on Wealthy, I'm not aware of another one that we are intentionally pausing at this time, but we'll follow up and make sure.
Just the other one, because I know it'll be top of mind for Commissioner Perdue, is the Seymour Square project. So the Wealthy Street project, we paused. Seymour Square, we've also paused, both in commercial corridors, both with a lot of concern about how to not only deal with the temporary impact on parking, but just long-term, the growth visualized for both of those corridors and the current parking situation. So Ms. Smith talked about what we are continuing to do is gather more data at the corridor level about some parking circulation. And so we'll bring back a more complete list, but I did want to mention Seymour Square because I knew that would be top of mind.
Thank you. Yeah, particularly for those that are public, being really clear about what we're pausing, I think is really important. So thank you for the clarity. I guess the only other thing that I will bring up that hasn't already been said is, when I look at the shared learnings, this all feels very accurate to the conversations we've had, we've heard. The thing that's not explicitly called out today, and I'm curious if this is something you all are thinking about, and that is just coordination with the Rapid. So a lot of our mobility conversations feel like they come down to cars versus bikes versus pedestrians, but buses are a key part of that system, and it's really about, can people get where they need to go affordably, reliably, and buses, our public bus system is a really key part of that. I'm aware that the Rapid is represented on the Mobile GR Commission, but I'm wondering if there is plans for a more kind of intentional, collaborative look as we think about how we grow and how we do that in lockstep with the Rapid and include them as part of our networking plans.
Sure. And so with transit specifically, it is a collaborative coordination process since the transit system is separate from the city, and they have been an excellent partner with us and are really excited. I just chatted with them yesterday about in preparation for this conversation today, and they are very excited to see us move forward. They just completed their master plan, their master transit plan, and so that is part of the over 50 regional and local transportation and mobility related plans that the team has been looking at to have a coordinated and collaborative effort forward to have that one vision in one place. So thank you for adding that. It's a really important part of our system and our network, and it's certainly something that needs to be layered in with the analysis.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Great. Thanks. Seeing no further questions, thanks for the review. And I now am, our next step for this group is we're going to be, we have a request from our city attorney that we move it to closed session. And so that will take a vote, and that will be happening in room 601. So City Clerk, if you could call the vote.
I will, do we need to move?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to go into closed session.
I'll support.
Okay.
Commissioner Kilgore?
Yes.
Commissioner Robbins?
Yes.
Commissioner Belcheck?
Yes.
Commissioner Purdue?
Yes.
Commissioner Sassi?
Yes.
Mayor LaGrand?
Yes, and that moves us into closed session. Thank you all.